Hello, welcome, Lifespan Development, yay! My name is Mika Bishop, and this will be my 9th year of teaching. I have been teaching what we call Lifespan Development now for, I want to say about 5 years. I tried to make it my own. My first few years of teaching, I taught next to Sherry Deaton, who I felt was the guru of child development and parenting. And so honestly, I really took all of her stuff and meshed it with my stuff that I had created and kind of created this amazing material for lifespan development, child development, parenting. So if you use my stuff, a lot of it is mine, but also from probably you as well and Sherry Deaton. So yeah, I teach currently, sorry, trying to get my screen ready. Currently I teach at Conway High School in the Career Center. Started off at Whitehall, now I am at Conway High School. So yeah, 9th year of teaching. All right, so today what I'm going to talk to you about is lifespan development. Basically, it's the same course as child development and parenting. It's just a name change. So relax a little bit. It's okay. I know there's so many changes coming at us the next school year, and I'm hoping that this can kind of ease your mind a little bit. This is my favorite course to teach. I love it. I'm the only one that teaches it at my campus, so I teach it almost all day. So yeah. The first thing that I do along with my course guide and syllabus is send home a permission slip. This is something that my school does. I don't know about yours, but just to be on the safe side, this is what I do. And in that permission slip, I think you can actually find it in my link that you should see at the bottom with all my resources that you can view. I will not give you edit access. If you want it to be yours, make a copy of it. But in that permission slip, I ask for permission for birthing videos, STD PowerPoints, any field trip that we're going on. If we do go on a field trip, we usually go to the women's birthing unit at Conway Regional. And just kind of a blanket, any permission to view any PG-13 movie. That's not something I have to do. That's something I choose to do. Again, better safe than sorry. So yeah. If a parent has said no to any of those things, I make direct contact. I call them and see what the issue is, kind of talk them through it, and see what we can do. I have only had that happen, I think, 2 times. And it ended up that child had to change their schedule. So anyways, okay, so yes, first step, permission slip. And I incorporate those things. STD PowerPoint, because it's pretty graphic. Child birthing videos, I show lots of them. Again, graphic, but they're from Birthing Center. So, which is probably what all of you show as well. Blanket permission slip to go on field trips. Usually it's Conway Regional Birthing Unit. I would recommend trying to find a birthing unit close to you and see if you can come tour it with your classes. Conway Regional did like a 30 to 45 minute tour. We toured triage, a birthing suite. We got to view the nursery, stuff like that. It was really neat. And then any PG-13 movie that I would want to show. We'll get to that in a minute, what videos I do show. Okay, so let me look at my list to see. All right, permission slip, first thing, yes. Guest speakers. I like having guest speakers. So what I usually have people come talk to, and it varies from year to year of who I can find. In the past, I have had a doula midwife come. That was really cool. They even did some breathing techniques with us, and even um, a few poses of yoga that she uses with her clients. So that was really cool. Lactation consultant would be a super great resource for you to come and have a guest speaker. In the past, I've also had a parent who had children conceived through IVF. That was also super enlightening and very interesting. And the kids had tons of questions for him. So yeah, those are my three go-tos. Some are easier to find than the others. So yeah. For frameworks and units, I try to do units 1 through 3 the first semester. I really try to push through unit 4 the first semester, since this is a year-long class, and then I do 5 to the end in the spring. So that is how I do it. I go in order of the units and in order of the framework standards given to us by Arkansas. If you look on my PowerPoint, all of the standards are there. I'm a very much teach to the standards kind of teacher. It helps me know that I have covered everything. So that's me. Textbooks, I don't use a textbook for this class. There are only a handful of assignments where I say use your textbook as a resource if you want to, but I do not assign anything from the textbook, like questions, answers, and readings, anything like that. I have it available to use as again, a source for information that they're gathering, but that's about it. And I have 2 older models of that, but that's really, I don't use textbooks. I use the PowerPoint, and I use the internet, and I use sources from the internet. Okay, movies. I don't show a lot of movies. I like documentaries. I think that's helpful. So I'm going to attempt to screen share with you. Yes. Okay. So one movie I do show is 5 Feet Apart, and this is rated PG-13. So hence the permission slip. I do like this movie because it covers cystic fibrosis, which is one of the birth defects we cover in Unit 3. We hit that topic pretty hard with a big project over the different birth defects where students have to research and present their information and teach it to the class. So after that standard is covered, I show this. It's new. They like it. It really covers the severity of cystic fibrosis, and it kind of goes deeper into the personal aspect and how it affects the lives of individuals affected with cystic fibrosis. So I like it. The kids like it. It's, I think, probably the only fun movie. Well, besides, we'll get to that in a minute, that I show. Another one that I'm going to show this year, this is brand new, and it's called Dads, and it's a documentary, and you can get it on Apple TV. But it's fantastic. I actually watched this just the other night. And it's basically a documentary following different dads and their transition into fatherhood and like what it means to them. It follows normal dads, and then it follows some famous dads like Will Smith, and it's really good, really good. I think a lot of child development parenting is focused on the mother, whereas this is completely different viewpoint that I feel like sometimes we miss a little bit. So this is great. I highly recommend it. View it first before you show it, of course. But again, I really enjoyed this. Another documentary that I show is The 9 Months That Made You. This is from PBS. You can find it on Netflix or PBS. This is like a series. So each session or series is like 50 minutes to an hour. We don't usually cover all of one, but the conception's really cool. There's birth defects in there that's also really interesting. So whenever we have like a random day where it's a half day or there's testing involved and most of my students are out, this is something that I would put on. It's still educational, but yet it's not something that an assignment where they would have to make up. So I really enjoy this one. Again, view it before you show it. There are some different episodes in here that could be a little more controversial. So pick and choose which ones you want to show depending upon you. I also show Wonder, which leads us to my next topic is books. Instead of textbooks and buying textbooks, I buy books like Wonder. Stephanie Ramsey and Minette Straub gave me this idea. They're from Bologna, and they do Wonder Wednesday. And so I have adopted Wonder Wednesday. We started in September, and every Wednesday we read a specific amount of pages and answer questions. And then when we are done with that, I show the movie Wonder. I really enjoy this one because, again, it looks at those birth defects, but it also looks at parenting and different parenting types, strategies, siblings, the family dynamics. So it's a great read. It's a great movie. And then if you see my Wonder Wednesday folder and all of my Google stuff, it has it broken down by each Wednesday, what pages they read, and questions to answer. And again, thanks to Stephanie Ramsey and Minette Straub for that idea. My kids love it. I love it. Read it with them. My next book that I am going to start reading with my kids, I read it with them with a different class last year. And this year, since I have this set, I'm going to have, after we finish Wonder, we're going to go into this. And it's Educated by Tara Westover. I think this plays very well into parenting rights versus parenting responsibilities. It also goes into maybe child abuse, child neglect. It's fantastic. If you haven't read this, read this before August. It's amazing. And there's tons of resources out there for questions to go over with them as well. I do not have anything broken down by pages for this one. What I did with my other class was I think Thursday we read this, and then I had them keep a journal, and they had to write down what pages they read in like a 3 to 4 sentences of what it was that they read, like what was the summary of them reading today. So I might use that as well, something maybe a little different from the questions and answers. But this is a fantastic book. So yeah. Okay, let's go back to, let's move on to, let's see, we did movies, we did guest speaker. Favorite projects. Okay, I have tons of them. This is a project-based class for me. So that's all we do is projects. Kids get tired of it, but I like it. So favorite projects. Okay, so in Unit 2, I really like investigate infertile options for couples. For here, this is the rubric. They have to draw for an infertile option. Those are artificial insemination, and fertility drugs, IVF, stuff like that. Adoption as well, that's also an infertile option, and foster as well, to see the kind of the difference between the two. So anyways, they draw for an infertile option, and then they create, they're in a group. You can do this individually as well, but it gets kind of repetitive since there's not so many infertile options. And they research and they answer these questions, and they use these questions to develop their PowerPoint that they present to the class. So define your option. What is it? Pros and cons. The 4 meaning they need at least 4 pros of this and 4 cons. The pros and cons can be from the child's point of view or the parent's point of view. At least 4 interesting facts about your options. I want to know if it's legal in the United States and in the world. And I want them to know, I want their opinion, and maybe the public's opinion on if it's ethical or not. Fees associated with these options, basically I want to know the cost. How much is it going to cost to do IVF? And with this project, I do walk around and assist them, because if they just tell me that 1 round of IVF is going to cost, $3,000, I make them dig a little deeper. How many rounds of IVF does a couple usually have to go through before it is, it takes? And so they enter those costs into that as well. And how has technology made an impact on this option? This could be like social media for adoption, or the designer baby gene selection for IVF. And then I have them create a graphic organizer about their options, something that the students have to fill out as they teach. And I print these for them. If you notice at the bottom, it is highlighted. Be sure to cite your information in order to receive credit. I do this on almost every project. Most of my, especially 10th and 11th grade, have no idea what MLA or APA citation is. So I'm pretty easy on them with it, but I do make them cite their sources, and they have to pick either MLA or APA format, their choice, just to get them in the habit. And I don't know, I feel like that it's important to cite your sources and make sure your sources that you're gaining information from is accurate. So I think it, so usually they have a reference slide where they cite their sources. And then if I scroll down, it says you'll present this information to the class, teach them about the option, make sure your information is correct and relevant. And then here's how they're scored. So it's a total of 144 points. So yeah, let me look at that for just a second. And again, you can find this in the folder for Unit 1. This is one of my favorite things for them to do in Unit 1. My next favorite is shopping for baby. I created this. I thought it was helpful. I make them, it says directions for this assignment. You'll need to do a little bit of shopping for your new baby. Use the table below to keep track of items you've bought. You will also need to find pictures of the items and put them on the following page. Make sure you number them to correspond with the items. Be sure to calculate the pricing for each set of items. So prices, total price for sleeping, stores in which they used, and they'll do that for the different categories like sleeping, clothing, diapering, furniture, bathing, travel, breastfeeding, bottle feeding, and extras. And then this here is where they put the pictures to see the difference. So they just copy and paste and put the pictures, make them tiny into the boxes. They find this one interesting because they're like, a stroller is how much money? No. Or a breast pump, what is that? And then that opens up a whole new bag of worms, right? But yeah. Next one, birth defect project. I covered this when we were talking about 5 feet apart in Wonder. This is quite a large project, 130 points. They do this by themselves. Again, I grade them for their information cited. I also go a step further and did they present in front of class? My students in presenting in front of class, you would think that I'm asking them to, pull their teeth. They do not want to present. So I grade them on if their presentation was professional. Do they know their information? Do they know how to pronounce the words? Did they present in class? I give them several days to work on this and opportunities to learn the correct words because spina bifida is a little, do they say it correctly? So yeah. Was it appealing? Rate of occurrence, treatments, if there are any. That could be cures, but it could also be like physical therapy and stuff like that. Methods of detection, what causes the birth defect, life expectancy, developmental disabilities. This one they kind of struggle with, and I have to remind them of Unit 1 and the 5 areas of development. Symptoms and description. So, I just have 2 on here because I cut them in half and use half sheets. So I usually do a sign up method for this one and have them pick which ones they want. But I limit it. Everyone wants fetal alcohol syndrome or Down syndrome. So I only limit, I think, to 2 students doing both of those. And then giving like Tay-Sachs, spina bifida, PKU, more slots because those are the ones that not everyone has heard of. So, and I can kind of show you my sign up sheet for that. It's my AMI work. In the past, I have done Google Forms for them to fill out and giving them options like choice 1, choice 2, and choice 3. I tell them they're not guaranteed their first choice. So I've done it that way, and I've also done it this way. And depending on how many classes or students I have in each class, I put X's like here for maybe sickle cell or cleft palate and maybe make it lower. Because again, everyone wants those because they've heard of them. Okay, next one for Unit 4, the postpartum period. So I have them create different brochures across the course. I really enjoy them making brochures. And I do this in a digital version. So they have to click the brochure template here, which takes them here. And you, of course, delete all of the science stuff and earth stuff and replace it with theirs. So they have 3 columns in the top and 3 columns in the bottom. But this is what they do. This is worth 125 points, and this is all the information that I want them to put on it. I want them to think of a new mom who has just given birth on their way home from the hospital or leaving the hospital. What information does she need to know? that sometimes people don't usually tell her, like about an episiotomy and taking care of it, you know, hair loss, cramping, the bleeding afterwards, something that maybe a doctor would tell you, but your friend's not going to tell you. I feel like so much of pregnancy and childbirth, it's kind of frosted over. Like, oh, it's so beautiful. You're going to love it. You'll forget about the pain. I remember no one told me about bleeding afterwards, or the cramping that comes with it, or the hair loss. And finally, I'm like, I'm losing my hair. Is that normal? And they're like, of course it's normal. I'm like, how is no one telling me this? So I think that's maybe why I really focus on that. I have told my students at the very beginning of class, I'm very blunt with you. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. We're going to say vagina. We're going to say penis. We're going to use correct terminology. We're going to be talking about gross stuff like the afterbirth. But you're going to leave my class very knowledgeable of what it is like to bring a child into this world through the birth process, and what comes with it. So I have developed this so that they can know about emotional levels. Another thing that's stigmatized is baby blues and postpartum depression. I don't feel like that's something we talk about enough. And I want my students to learn about it. So maybe when their wife gives birth, or when they have given birth, they know, hey, this is not normal. This is not okay. I'm way too sad, or I'm way too depressed. Because again, I don't feel like that's talked about enough or learned about enough. And how can families help? Creativity. I feel like this is, and I have an example for you somewhere. There it is. Okay, so this is an example of information. It talks about her next checkup time, what to expect, some breast information, emotional levels, baby blues versus postpartum depression, hair loss, after pains, cramping, weight loss after childbirth. So yeah. With this project, I have them work in partners, because it is a lot. It's a lot of information to gather and find. So yes, one of my favorites. Next one, childproof checklist. Create a childproof checklist for parents. This should be in Unit 5. I had to do this one on Google Classroom for AMI, so that's why there's a timestamp on it. Your checklist should be neat and legible. You may create using Google Slide, Google Doc, or Google Drawing. I like to give them options for formats. I feel like it differentiates instruction just a little bit. Sometimes I get tired of the Google Docs, or sometimes they don't understand Google Drawing and they get frustrated, especially with my lower learning students. So I like to give them different format options. If you need ideas, you can search Pinterest or Google for assistance. Basically, they needed to make a checklist for parents on how to childproof. So I want 5 items for the bedroom. So in a bedroom, what needs to be childproof or baby-proof? In the kitchen, what are some things that need to be childproof? Baby outlets, cabinet doors, chemicals, knives, stuff like that. Same thing, bathroom and living area. For spanking versus non-spanking, and I have done, I really enjoy having them read articles and form an opinion. So for here, they read 2 articles for spanking and 2 articles against spanking, and they have to, I have tried to get different articles for different sources. so they can see the difference between the two, like 2 for and 2 against. And then here, so they have to read the article. What's the name of the article? What was the date of the article? I also feel like that's super important that your sources are up to date. I try to teach them, of course, I try and teach them about childbirth and how to be a parent and, you know, making good choices for their child. But I also want them to, in that process, I want them to learn where to find this information of how to be a good parent. And I want them to know, you know, to read both sides and form an opinion, whether that's spanking or vaccinating or, you know, using IVF or whatever it is. I also want to teach my kids, my students, to gather good information and form an opinion on it. I use this different version several times. Again, they have to put 5 facts that they have read from the article. So it's 4 articles. And then I usually ask a question, what is your opinion? Or when you become a parent, will you spank? Why or why not? So not only do I ask them their opinion, I want them to use specific examples from the reading that they use to back up and form their opinion. And again, I use a different version of this for different things. Vaccinating is a great one. Spanking, rights and responsibilities is another good one that you can use this on. But reading comprehension, I think, is a great thing that I really try to incorporate in my classroom. So reading articles, forming an opinion. We looked at that one. Vaccine More. This is also another documentary that you can find on YouTube. I had students watch this. They had to answer questions. First, they had to watch the video and then answer questions. So yeah, it's a great quiet day of teaching, and partnered this with reading articles for and against it and forming an opinion. Again, I think is a great tool for students to see both sides and form an opinion. So those are my favorite lessons that I do. I also, so here's my, we also make a uterus out of Play-Doh, which is super fun. We are a Google Classroom, a Google school, so they, everyone in my class has access to Chromebook. So I have them get Ziploc bags, Play-Doh, they create and label the uterus, fetus, umbilical cord, placenta. They put it in a Ziploc bag for the amniotic sac. I have them take a selfie picture with it, with their Chromebooks, and upload it to the Google Classroom, and that's how I grade it. It's super fun. It's a different way to teach the different parts. So that's always a good one. 6, 7, and 8, they go by super fast, and especially 7 and 8, my seniors are usually gone because I don't just teach 10th and 11th, I teach seniors as well. Something else that I really like to do is daily objective worksheets. And let me find one for you. I do these weekly. Again, I am a teacher that teaches to the standards. And so I like to know that I am teaching to the standards and that I cover all of them. So instead of a bell ringer, I don't use bell ringers. I use daily objectives. So students get these on Mondays, and they work on them all week, and then they turn them in on Fridays. And what they do is the date. Their objective is always an I can statement, and I take the standard and turn it into an I can statement. I can differentiate between the 3 different parenting styles. I can compare and contrast the 3 different parenting styles, or I can analyze corporal punishment, or I can analyze disciplining a child. Whatever it is, I put it into kind of their words for them, and it's always an I can statement. So this is what they do at the beginning of class. I have it in 2 different places. I always have it on the board that shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of what we're going to be doing that week, and then I also have it on the screen, the TV screen. Shows what we're going to do that day. And then at the end of class, they have about the 3 minutes, bell to bell, 3 minutes before the bell, they do their reflection. And they should always start the reflection with, I learned. I learned that whatever, okay? I learned that spanking children affects them into their adult life, okay? Or if we're on vocabulary, maybe they select a specific vocabulary word and define it. I hit really hard at the beginning of the year on grading the reflections. I want them specific. I learned about vocabulary. That's not going to cut it. I want new vocabulary words that you learned, and I want you to define it. If you just restate the objective, I'm not going to give you credit for that. I want specific examples of what you learned. This helps me. It helps them. It helps them for test. It helps me to know that I am teaching to the standards. And when I grade these, I can see which ones I need to cover again, or which ones I need to maybe restate or reflect back over. So not only is it a reflection for them, it's also a reflection for me as well. So this is great instead of bell ringers. I enjoy bell ringers, but I feel like this is more content driven, and bell ringers are great for discussion, I feel like, but this is also great for prepping for the day, and it kind of gives them insight of what they're going to be learning for the day, which bell ringers do too. But this is also, my school was really big on standards and objectives and I can statements. So this was another way for me to meet those test goals too. Okay, what else? Let's look on my list. So favorite projects, I did that. Movies, doula, guest speakers. Favorite lessons. Okay, my favorite lessons that I do. My first one is the balloon with the ping pong ball. The kids love it. If you haven't heard of it, you take a balloon, put the ping pong ball inside of it, blow it up just a little bit, and then it simulates contractions. If you squeeze from the middle, the ping pong ball doesn't come down. It doesn't really do anything. But if you squeeze the balloon from the top, it slowly makes the ping pong ball come out. The cervix dilate, which would be the end of the balloon, and it shoots out, and the kids are on the seat of their pants the entire lesson. It doesn't take very long, but you do go over maybe dilation and the different from 0 to 10. You can go over Braxton Hicks contractions versus real contractions and stuff like that. They really enjoy it. It's fun. It gets them interested. It's something different. Another one is the different parenting styles. I got this one from another teacher too, but it's one of my all-time favorites. It's the rock, tennis ball, and marshmallow. And each one of them represents a different parenting style. They have to use words to describe each item, and I usually have those items and pass them around. The the class, and they have to then reflect over those words that they use to describe those items and which ones would we describe parents like it to. And then they read an article, they do some note taking, some highlighting, and then they fill out a pro-con list for each different parenting style with a partner. We go over it. It's really great. It's one of my all-time favorites. I did not create it, but I use it and I love it. Parenting style and the index cards for STD. It's the sharing game where it teaches abstinence. It teaches how the spread of STDs come into play. It does also talk about condom usage as well. So great thing. It's also in my folder. It's fun. It does take the whole class period, especially when you discuss it, and they have questions at the end to reflect over. Something that I really enjoy and that my kids like is an empathy belly. So if you don't have one of those and you teach this class, I would look into getting one of those. I know some teachers make them wear it all day. I do not. I make them wear it for a class period and we just work down the roster. I do not make them wear it. It's not for a grade, but if they choose to and it's their day, they can put it on. If they do, I do make them maybe walk around the classroom, pick up a pencil off the floor, tie their shoes, stuff like that, just to kind of have them feel what it's like. We talked about the articles and reading, forming an opinion. This would also be great to use for the designer babies and gene selection. Vaccinate to not vaccinate, spank versus non-spank, we talked about that. Books to read, we covered that. ISNs, this is going to be the last topic that I talk about. ISNs stands for Interactive Student Notebook. And this is a lot of work. It was a lot of work for me to create all of the foldables. Anything you see for that, I did create. The foldables that teaches specific standards. Before ISNs, I used note packets with blanks in them, and I used visual pages. And I just felt like they were filling out note packets and not listening to me. Or I feel like they were just looking for the blank in the page when we were to fill it. I didn't feel like they were actually learning content. So ISNs, I do it a little differently. It's a lot of work, but I do give them class days to work on this. Usually I give them maybe one day a week, maybe, or at least half a class period a week to work on this. And of course, if they ever finish their project or assignment for the day early, they always have something to work on, and it's going to be their ISN. So ISN, Interactive Student Notebook. Anything that we do that's not on Google Classroom goes in there. So their notes, foldables, KWLs, study guides, all of that goes into their ISN. I've created foldables for specific standards. So what they do is I have them. Each ISN is different. I use binders because now this is a year-long class and it's long. But there's so much information to be taught that I do use binders instead of like the actual spiral notebooks or composition notebooks, just because we would fill like 5 of those. So binders, notebook paper, because you can take it in and take it out. You can rearrange it to where it's supposed to be. So foldables, I go ahead and print these off. They do not usually create them themselves. Each one is usually a different color to help them learn. It also helps me grade. But the foldables, they have to cut them out, put the information on them from the slide, cut, paste, glue, however, tape, tape them down, fill out information. So they're not creating one, but they're cutting, folding, writing, click, pasting, and taping. So I feel like they really know the information because they're somewhat creating it with their hands, writing it down, reading it, and it's a different color, so it differentiates information. And when possible, I also put pictures on the foldables as well, to kind of give another visual aspect of the information. So it is a lot of work. The kids complain about it. But at the end, when they get to see their massive notebook with all of the information, it's really cool. And some students really like this because they're making it their own. They can put in the foldables. Of course, it has to be in order of the standards, but in different ways. I have them paraphrase if they want to the information, as long as they have, it's correct and accurate. But yeah, some add more flair to it than others, and some don't. But I also always have them write down the standards that go along with it and have them highlight them. It's easy for them to reference back to when studying for test. Again, so if you see foldables and ISN in my folder, that's what it is. So lots of great information there. It can be a little overwhelming if you've never done ISN before. Feel free to reach out to me and ask for help, or ask how this foldable is supposed to go. I have tons of examples at my classroom, but because of COVID, I don't have them with me. I can send you pictures. I can walk you through it. I can help. I'm here for assistance, whatever you need. Again, I did not reinvent the wheel on any of my information. I have used fellow teachers' stuff to kind of just recreate or modify to fit my classroom, just like you do. So that is all I have. Those are my favorite things for lifespan development. I've got to get used to saying that, to lifespan development. I'm here if you need me. If you have any questions, or if you want to give me some great teaching tools or different projects to do, please let me know. I would greatly appreciate it. Again, let me know if you need anything. That's all I got for today. Everyone be safe. Love to you all.